What is up, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of the Harold McBasketball Show. I'm your host, as always, Harold McBasketball, along with my co-host, I Know Ball Paul. How you doing, man?
I'm not doing too bad. I'm a little tired if I'm being honest, but after seeing the views and the support for the last episode, how can I not be energized? Um, Thank you once again to Sean Mack for coming on. It was a blast, but what's even more of a blast is seeing that view count, which was nearly double our last high. So thank you, Sean Mack. You were a pleasure to have on. You were a natural, a professional, and I just had a great time. I wasn't sure if three hosts was going to be easy, but he made it easy. He made it fun. So I think we'll see more of him in the future. Maybe some other guests as well. But I wanted to give the special shout out, and it's cool to see the views go up for sure. Not
Yeah,
that that's what we care about, but
but it does matter. We love to see the support. We love to see that the content that we're putting out, was really resonating with the fans. So that was awesome to see that kind of view count. I retweet what Paul said. Thank you for coming on, Sean. We'll definitely have more, special guests coming on in the future. And yeah, thank you all for tuning into that episode. It was an absolute smash hit, and this is why we keep doing this.
so what are we doing today, Harold?
So today we're gonna be doing our predictions for the awards next season. It'll be the first time that players are given the new award trophies. Actually, I think second time. The Cool Glass Trophy. So we're gonna be running through all of our favorites, the big ones. So MVP, Depoy, Rookie of the Year, Sixth Man of the Year, Most Improved, and of course, the most important award of them all, Clutch Player of the Year.
Yeah, and we're going to put that last because that's kind of the big cherry on top. Everyone wants to know our picks for the clutch player of the year. So stick around. We'll have our predictions there.
Yep, yep, and of course, the award that all the players are clamoring to get. Is really going to be, one of the most important accolades for people trying to get into the Hall of Fame in the future. So yeah, we'll see. But if you want to start with the easy one, the big one, MVP?
Yes. So the way we kind of talked about doing this before recording was that we were going to kind of give an obvious choice, then maybe more of a second choice guy, and then kind of a dark horse, unpredictable um, pick. So for my like kind of obvious, I think it's fairly obvious to everyone that Jokic is the favorite to win in odds.
Wow, what a plot twist!
Yeah. And obviously not winning it the year before, and then with the incredible finals run and winning the championship, I think there was a little bit of damn. Maybe he probably should have gotten it over Embiid, who had a tougher playoff run, obviously losing to the Celtics in the second round. So it seems like if Jokic has another incredible season, he would be deserving and a the deserved favorite for the MVP award.
Yeah, I agree, and it's an interesting thing too because in hindsight, it kind of feels like he should have won it last year. A lot of people ended up going with Embiid because there was this voter fatigue. A lot of people are saying like it's tough to give someone, three straight MVPs and haven't really done anything in the playoffs. And then they dominated, won the finals. He was finals MVP, and it was pretty evident that, not only was he the best player in the playoffs, but he probably was in the regular season too. Like the Nuggets were the top seed. They dominated the whole year. He was fantastic as always. So I think it's gonna be a pretty easy pick for MVP next year. I think like as long as he plays a reasonable number of games, it's gonna be really hard not to give him the award. The Nuggets are still gonna be amazing next season. His stats are gonna be better than everybody else's. His advanced stats are always better than everyone else's too, even on the defensive end. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer. I think he's probably gonna get it. I think this, one of the shorter segments talking about Jokic and MVP. So I think where things might get more interesting is, talking about some players who could swoop in, could make that big leap into the MVP talk, and seeing if anyone can actually give him a run for his money.
Yeah, for sure. And so Embiid just won it, obviously. So although his odds are going to be great, I kind of anticipate he's going to have a slightly worse season because he had a great scoring season last year, and I think he probably pushed for that to some degree. So I kind of anticipate his numbers will go down a bit, and even if they don't, like we talked about, I think it's a bit more unlikely that he wins the back to back for the same reasons that some people didn't want to give Jokic the award this time. It kind of feels like that's a very prestigious thing to win back to back and to win, more than once.
Yeah,
So
yeah. One thing I'd add to that too is I also expect the Sixers to take a little bit of a step back because they're a little bit of a mess right now. So I think if the Sixers are kind of closing out the season like the fourth or the fifth seed, it's going to be a lot harder to justify Embiid to get that MVP award.
yeah, absolutely. And then yeah, the Harden situation is a mess. We'll see what happens with that. Maybe if he leaves, I mean, Embiid could have better stats considering he would have slightly higher usage and
Yeah,
the,
yeah, and
one
maybe
more
there's a
player.
storyline there too, where you say like, "Oh, look at how good Embiid is in the Sixers, even without Harden." Like maybe they move away from Harden and they end up being like the second or third seed. Then he probably does have that argument. That's just not something I'm willing to bank on. I don't think that would be the case if they lose Harden. I think they would get worse. So he's not really even in like my second or third bucket. I just don't think he has awards back to back.
Yeah. And then the other favorite from last year was Giannis, and then I think a fourth would be Tatum. Tatum was kind of my second pick, and that's probably, hey, by a Celtics fan here, but he's such a consistent regular season guy. And if the Celtics click with Porzingis as that third option, and I kind of anticipate the offense will look better, if anything, we'll see on the defensive end, but I think there's definitely promise there as well. And we could definitely see an improvement in the record. That Tatum will have a strong case. And again, he's a guy who plays the majority of the regular season. He's proud of the fact that he does, and he's a stat patter. And there's a bit of a slump typically at the end of the season, like we saw last year, that I think you mentioned in the awards show last year. But if he can stay strong, I think he also has that case of first time award winner. Um, and so I could see a world where my boy Tatum holds up his first MVP trophy, and I think he wants it. I think he wants it really bad.
Yeah, Tatum was also my number two guy. He's a guy who, for a lot of last season, I partially I was hoping he'd win MVP as a Celtics fan, but I thought he had a really good case for the first half of the year. Played most of the games. His stats are amazing. Like I think it was 30 points, 9 rebounds, 4.5 assists. He's gotten a lot better as a passer. And he's also objectively one of the best defenders in the league. He's always won the highest in defensive win shares and box score plus minus on that end of the floor. His impact is always evident. And I think the Celtics are in for a really good season. I could see the Celtics taking that top seed. And if they've got like the top seed in the East, which is an objectively harder conference in the West, or even if they have like the best record overall, I think that would give them or would give Tatum a really good shot at getting this award. And then Giannis is obviously also in the discussion, but he kind of missed a lot of games last season, and I could see that happening again. I don't think he's going to miss a crazy amount, but if he finishes the season with like 60 games played and Tatum's at 72, I think that is like a pretty noticeable gap between them.
For sure. And it kind of feels like Giannis has reached a point in his career where he's not going to be playing 70 plus games.
Yeah, yeah, the Bucks are
I
getting a
think
little bit older, so they might prioritize their health for the postseason. And in doing that, a lot of their stars will play less in the regular season between like, him, Drew, Middleton, Brook.
yeah. And there was the offseason surgery like you mentioned last episode.
Yeah, kind of think it's a big deal. We'll see, but I think it
Yeah.
try to sneak that in there. But knee surgeries it's a big deal, especially since it's been lingering with Giannis for a little while now. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Knee surgery is a weird thing.
Yeah. In my mind, Jokic is first, Tatum second, and then Giannis or Embiid third. Probably Embiid a slight edge, but
Yeah, yeah, I think that's fair.
do you have a dark horse pick that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so my dark horse pick was Devin Booker. I think Booker's got a decent chance to make his way into the discussion. I think the Suns are going to be really good next season. Like I've kind of waffled on this at first. I was like, I don't really know if I love this Beal trade, but regardless, I think they did a really good job with their veteran minimum players. So the team is going to be good, and I think they'll be in the upper half of the Western Conference. And I think Booker will probably be the best player on that team. Durant's getting a little bit older. I can see him missing some time. Beal, I think, is like good, but he's just like not the same caliber of player that Booker and Durant are. So I think the Suns are really good, and Booker is averaging almost 30 points per game again and plays the majority of the games that season. I think he could get in the discussion. I think it'd be hard for him to win it over Jokic or Tatum, but I could see him easily getting into the top five.
Yeah, that's a great pick. Yeah, and if the Suns impress and if they're a top seed, I expect Booker to be the best player on that team and to have the highest usage. And yeah, that's a great pick. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they kind of share the sugar over there and how everyone is able to get their reps. They seem to be putting Beal at the helm of the well, they announced he would be the point guard.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah,
I still kind of envision Booker being the lead guy. I kind of
yeah,
think Booker's a better passer too. It's like I know he feels a little bit like a true shooting guard, but he's really good on the ball. So we'll see. I feel like it'll be a timeshare, and I think Booker will probably be the more effective point guard for that team.
yeah, I agree. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I think that's a great dark horse pick. He's a great regular season guy. A bit of injuries last year, but overall, he stayed pretty consistently healthy in the regular season. Again, then come playoffs, sometimes it's a bit shaky, especially against the Mavericks. But
Regular season award though. Regular season
the
award.
regular season award, it gets announced before the playoffs. Um, and so, yeah, good pick. Can I give you mine?
Yeah, go for it.
I like mine. I think mine is kind of cheeky.
Good, good. What you got?
I got Kyrie as my dark horse MVP.
Mm,
Now that I say it
gross.
out loud, I'm a bit like, which reminds me that Doncic should probably be on the board for like a favorite in the top five. But
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Give me your take.
my case for Kyrie is that if he's a phenomenal player, obviously as we know, and there are very low expectations for the Mavericks. Whether that's warranted or not, I'm not sure. I could see them outperforming those expectations for sure. We had a small sample size last year, but if Kyrie comes in, he's able to stay healthy and play like 65 games, which seems like a bit of a stretch, I admit. But if he's out there averaging like 28, 30 points and like 6 assists, which I think he can do quite easily, especially with the situation there in Dallas, and the Mavericks end up as like a fifth or a fourth seed, I think he might have a very strong case. That being said, he might just be overshadowed by Doncic having way better stats on the same team. So I could kind of see that, but I think he definitely has the narrative there and just the capability to be, um, you know, the difference maker on that team and just kind of come in and play like a superstar, like he has something to prove. And I don't know, it just kind of came to mind and seems unlikely, but if it happens, I'm a genius.
I think it's a good dark horse, and I think it's I think if that does work out, then like yeah, it'll look awesome. If not, it'll be like, all right, that's fine, whatever. Um, it's an interesting take though, because Luca is someone who I almost gave a shout out for, that like second tier behind Jokic. And I was pretty much gonna say like I'm not putting him in that tier, and it is because I just don't think the Mavs are gonna be that good next season.
Mm-hmm.
So like even if he's putting up crazy stats like he did, I think the last 2 seasons he's been, top three, top five for MVP odds. I don't think Luka's gonna get there this year, just because I don't think the Mavs are gonna be that good. I think they'll probably have a losing record to be about 500, and I just don't think they'll be good enough to have a player get into the MVP conversation like seriously. That's kind of my thoughts. So I was like, I didn't think I was gonna put Luka in there because of that. So the same goes for Kyrie. But if they do outperform, Kyrie will definitely put up incredible stats. He's flashy as always. People still love Kyrie. People love to hate on Kyrie. When Kyrie is playing well, the media loves him. His highlights are incredible, and you can't get him off Sports Center and off of Twitter. So I don't know if he's balling out, he's going to get a lot of attention. That could get him into the conversation.
Yeah. And like I said, I think the big asterisk is that Luca will probably always have better stats.
Yeah, that's really tricky.
Yeah. So that's why kind of saying it out loud and thinking about it, it's a tough case to make.
But if he has a crazy season though, then maybe you point to him and say Kyrie is the difference maker for this Dallas team now. They haven't really been able to, put together a remarkable season in a few years now. But if Kyrie's able to be the spark plug for that team and like really make that happen, then maybe he gets the credit for it too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
who knows, there might also be a world where it's like it feels very unlikely that he plays more games than Luca. But if that does happen, if he plays like 70 and Luca plays 60, then maybe he is the guy who would get the vote over Luca.
Yeah. No, it'll be interesting, and I I'm wishful with this Mavericks team, and I think that they can maybe pull off something special. Not maybe not special, but above 500, and definitely a bit of a redemption because we've seen, we've seen a very strong version of this team not so long ago. And granted, they've lost some of their pieces, including Brunson and KP when they had him.
The West has also gotten a little bit better too. Like I feel like the West was like pretty open last year and they couldn't make it happen. I still think it is open, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to like foreshadow my Western Conference rankings too early because we will have an episode coming on that soon. But I
Very
not have them particularly high. I'm not very hot on the Mavs right now. I think their roster is still pretty mid outside of Luca and Kyrie.
Yeah, they are definitely lacking some pieces, but who knows? Yeah, we'll delve into that more in the Western Conference power rankings. But yeah, that was my dark horse pick.
Cool. I love it. Anyone else you want to give a little like hat tip to before we move on to defensive player of the year?
Um, Honestly, I don't have anyone else written down, but who knows? Maybe someone like
I would think about like other teams that might be, surprisingly good next season. Like if the Cavs are really good next season, I think Mitchell could get into the conversation. He's
yeah,
been in it in the past and his stats are amazing. And he's also a media darling, and that goes a long way. So I could see him getting into the convo, but I don't see him getting higher than, maybe like fifth.
yeah, maybe Steph Curry. There's a world where he's able to stay healthy. The Warriors
Yeah.
are able to have a great season.
Yeah, I think he was like, and granted, it was probably only for like the first month of the season or two, but I think he was, you know, the early favorite last season because he was playing so well and the Warriors like really nice. But then he dealt with some injury struggles. So who knows? But if he puts together a healthy season, he's always in the conversation.
Yeah, I think the worry is that like he's not really. They load or they
Yeah,
man.
they're playing for the finals right now. They're not playing for their regular season. They just want to be out of the play, and that's really all they're looking for.
Yeah, I don't really see him playing more than like 60 games, no matter how injury
For sure.
ridden his season is. But I mean, Tyrese Halliburton is still young, but I think he could. I think the Pacers could pull together a great record, and he could have an incredible stat line. But
Yeah, he could
again,
definitely lead the league in assists.
yeah. But yeah, no, that's about it for MVPs. It will be interesting to see who comes out with it. But yeah, definitely think Jokic is the strong favorite.
For
And
sure, for sure. Yeah,
pulling for
it's fun.
Tatum.
Yeah, it's fun to throw names out there, but this is definitely Jokic's award, bearing any unforeseen circumstances. But yeah, we'll see. All right, cool. Let's do defensive player of the year. I'll throw mine out there. Maybe we'll have the same guy. I'm going with our guy Evan Mobley, who I had winning the award last year, although it ultimately went to Jaren Jackson Jr. But yeah, I just think he's like one of like the best defensive players in the league, and he seems to be getting better every year. He's still super young, going into his third season. Cavs have an amazing defense, partially thanks to Jared Allen, but Mobley's, a huge part of that. And I think probably the most important defender on that team. And I just love like players that can do everything, because not only is he going to block a lot of shots at the rim, but he moves around the court so quickly, can defend well at the 3-point line, has a massive impact, and the advanced stats always love him. So I think he may have gotten snubbed last season, and I think this season people have taken more notice of him, and and I think I have a good chance of getting this award.
Yeah, he's also my pick. But that being said, I do think in a way it's Jaren's to lose, just
True.
because he missed a good portion of last season, and he just needs to keep the fouls down, average his 2 blocks, and I think he has a very strong case once again. But I think it's between him and Mobley. I have a long list of plenty of players that could compete for it, but in my mind, it's going to be between Jaren or Evan again because I think they have the stats, but they also just both pass the eye test with like incredible highlights. Evan guarding anybody on the court, and Jaren swatting anybody on the court with some
Yeah,
monster projections.
yeah, and Jaren pretty much he pretty much missed the first 2 months of last season, which was
Yeah,
like it was like weird. You know, it's not like he was like dealing with these like on and off injuries the entire season. It's just he went into the year with an injury, and then once he was playing, he was lights out on defense. Didn't miss a whole lot of time after that, and he looked incredible. So if you get the same season out of him with maybe a couple more games played, he could definitely get that award. And his advanced stats are also amazing. And not only that, but the block totals just jump off the page with him. So he's kind of like my second guy. It's like I'm pulling for Mobley again because I feel like he had a really good case for it last season. But I think it's going to be between him and Jaren Jackson Jr.
yeah. If he can keep those fouls down, man, I'll be in the Jaren Jackson camp.
Yeah,
But
that was kind of like his other struggles. He would have random games where it's like he'd play 20 minutes and then be sidelined with 5 fouls.
right, and I think that's why we both kind of felt Mobley was a bit more deserving and kind of the unsung hero um, of the race last year, with people giving a lot of credit to Brooke Lopez, who was probably a bit undeserving of said credit.
Right, yeah, because like was he even the best player on his team, on defense? Probably not. It was still probably Giannis when he was playing. So that was I always thought that was a weird argument.
Yeah, and then Jaren, deserved, I think, the love for Defensive Player of the Year, but not to beat a dead horse, but yeah, the fouling issues were pretty bad. He could not help himself.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, dark horse or anyone else you want to shout out?
I just have a really long list of guys that I think, with the right circumstances, are incredible defensive players and can kind of average those stats. Giannis, kind of obvious, I guess. I think Claxton. I think the Nets could be such a great defensive team this year.
Yeah, I'd both like the Nets guys on my list. So Claxton, I think McHale also. McHale is also such a defensive force, and it was a little easy to look past that last season because when he joined the Nets, his stats were insane and he was balling out on offense. But he is still one of the best on-ball defenders in the league, and that Nets defense is going to be scary. So that's like if that ends up being the best defense in the league, um, it's definitely possible one of those guys gets the award.
For sure. And yeah, like you said, either of those guys I think could end up making a case. I think Claxton, just being the big man, being the guy that could average a couple of blocks, will kind of be seen as the leader on the defensive side. And I think he could definitely make a case. And we saw his impact last year. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but he had a crazy impact on defense. Um, his on versus off the court stats. I wish I had them in front of me, but um, then I had AD, I had Rob Williams. Um,
I like Rob as a pick. It's like we'll kind of see
yeah,
how many minutes he actually gets next season, but we all saw what he was able to do in like the Ime Udoka defense, and I think Maz will use him the same way if he feels willing to let him off the leash that much, if you will, give him those kind of minutes to make that kind of an impact. Like we'll see, the team might prioritize keeping him healthy for playoffs, so choosing to use him less, kind of have the opportunity to use him a little bit less now that KP's on the team. So we'll see, but like he's obviously an incredible defender and one of the best in the league.
yeah, and it feels like when you can average like 2+ blocks easily, then you're just automatically kind of in
Mm-hmm.
that conversation. It just looks sexy. So, um,
Wait,
yeah,
can I get my dark horse? I'm kind of dying to talk about this guy
yeah,
right
please
now.
do. Sorry.
All right, my dark horse is Walker Kessler. I think if he starts, he could easily get into the conversation. I think he's one of the best shot blockers in the league, and not only one of the best shot blockers in the league, but his timing is incredible on defense. So the amount of shots that he alters at the rim is incredible, and he's gonna be able to force opposing teams to really low field goal percentages in the paint. So if he gets the starting job next season, which I think he will, he essentially had that locked down for the second half of last season. If he
Right.
gets to keep that same role, I think he'll get into this conversation.
Yeah, and he's someone that averaged 2.3 blocks last year. Um,
3.7 per 36, which is insane. It's like if he can just get like 30 minutes a game next season, he could be averaging 3 blocks, which would be incredible and would easily get him into the conversation.
yeah, in college he averaged like 4.6 blocks a game,
Yeah,
not for
he's an absolute stud.
Yeah, and he gets posterized a lot, but that's because he puts his body on the line.
It's a part of it. I feel like
Yeah,
every good defensive player does get posterized, and that's just a part of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a great dark horse right there. Um, I love the guy. And yeah, no, he's just a natural when it comes to blocks. And we saw that he can be effective on both ends of the court. Like he ended up being awesome and like even kind of made his way into the rookie of the year conversations, which was funny.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I think he probably finished like third. Yeah, and maybe and he definitely got a bias vote at some point. I remember like the one Jazz writer that had a vote gave him the vote for gave him
Right.
like the top spot in his list for rookie of the year, but still counts. We'll take it.
A writer at the Salt Lake Tribune, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe a little inherent bias in that, but maybe he was watching enough games to really know how spectacular this guy is.
Yeah. And I also put down a couple forwards. I was like, maybe it's the year of the forward this year. Maybe a forward could come out and win the award like we've seen some guards do. Like has a for like when was the last time a forward won defensive player of the year? You know, I guess
God.
that's a tough
Yeah. Do we need a
question.
quick Google? This is great podcasting right now. Okay, okay, let's see.
Yeah. But on my list, I was like, hey, maybe Jaden McDaniels or Jalen Brown.
Let's see. It looks like the last one is to win it. I mean, we kind of forgot about Draymond, who's of course won it a couple of times.
Oh
And
yeah.
then also Kawhi. Kawhi would be like probably the last true small forward to get it. But I definitely think like both of the Jays could be in the discussion. And the Celtics defense is always one of the best defenses in the league. So I think whenever a team is like the number one defensive team in the NBA, you automatically get a guy into the conversation for defensive player of the year. So if the
Yeah.
Celtics end up being the top defense, or at least like one of the top three defenses, I think JB or JT will at least get a couple of votes for the award.
Yeah. I think it would be like a similar situation to the Bucks, like we mentioned, where they're gonna say, oh hey, this is the best defense. Who are the best defenders? And then if the other two don't have enough of a case, didn't play enough games, then they'll just kind of default to the third who might have really nice stats. And that could be JB, that could be Rob, that could be JT. If I said JB, I forget.
Yeah,
Maybe
and
JT.
yeah, and probably not, but maybe.
Probably not.
He does get a lot of blocks though. This is kind of also in like the same vein, but we're looking at point guard here. I also wonder if like Marcus Smart get back into the discussion because he's
Mhm.
going to be starting for the Grizzlies for the first 41 games of the season. And he's probably going to start the entire season, but he's going to get that starting point guard spot for the first half of the season with Jaw out. And that Grizzlies defense is going to be amazing. You know, the only issue is that it's probably going to be Jaron, who's clearly the best defender on the team. It's going to be hard for Marcus to get votes over him. But I could see him having a really good defensive season, even though some would say that last season was not his best defensive season. But I think the Grizzlies are going to be so good, and he's going to be such a big part of that defense that, you know, even if he's not like the defensive player of the year discussion, I think he could at least be in the discussion for getting onto one of those, you know, all defensive teams at the end of the season.
Yeah, I could definitely see that as well. And they're gonna get Steven Adams back, man.
Yeah, Steven Adams was awesome. I mean, he deserves a little shout out. You know, it's probably not going to be in this discussion, but he is a bruiser and he is so important for that defense. He's such an awesome player for that team to have. I like what the Grizzlies have going on right now.
Yeah, we'll definitely get more into it when we do our Western Conference rankings, but the offense, maybe some question marks there, but the defense and just like that ability to bully teams and just make them feel pain, I think the Grizzlies are going to be an awesome watch.
Yeah, yeah, they're kind of the bad boys of the league right now.
All right. Any other special shout outs? I liked your picks.
Yeah, those are pretty much the big ones I wanted to mention. You know, maybe there are a couple that we missed, so sorry about that for anyone who's big fans of anyone we missed. But yeah, no, those are pretty much the ones I had at the top, you know, to really be contending for the award.
Yeah. Sound off in the comments if we missed anyone. Give us your picks.
Yeah, and like,
Uh,
and just that we missed them, like, doesn't mean that they're not going to be in contention for one of the all defensive teams. But to really be in this discussion, like, we're talking about the guys who are going to be like getting votes for the award.
right. All right. Moving along, shall we do Rookie of the Year?
Yeah. Should we part two rookie of the year? Because I feel like there's a lot we want to dive into here.
Yes, we should.
Deal. All right, part two coming. Stay tuned. All right, on to part two. Time to time to dive into rookie of the year. I think everyone's got the same pick for this. Everyone's gonna say Wembanyama, one of the greatest draft prospects in ages. He is walking into an awesome situation on the Spurs where he's immediately not only going to start, but be the focal point of this offense. And on top of that, like I think regardless of even if the offensive numbers need improvement, his defense is immediately going to be insane. He's going to rack up tons of blocks. So I think that's like the pretty easy first pick that everyone's going to agree on. I assume you're in alignment, Paul.
Of course, yeah. Maybe we should have mentioned him for Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, maybe that feels maybe though. I don't know. I'm not gonna say no. He's gonna get a ton of blocks, tons of minutes, probably a lot of steals just because his arms are so long. He's gonna be incredible. I think he should get this award pretty easily, but you also never know.
Yeah, he was my favorite to win it. I think a big part of this is going to be the games played. We've mentioned it, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but they're not in a really win now situation. They're still developing, so there's a world where he only plays 50 games, even if he's completely healthy. So we'll wait and see. I'm sure we have the second. Our second option is also the same, and that would be
Probably. Who do
Chet.
you have? I kind of had a coin flip on this one. So I thought it could either be Chet, which was like interesting because the first time I made this list, I didn't even realize that he was still eligible. And I was like, yeah, Chet is still a thing. So he's kind of like tied for my second spot. I actually end up still giving the nod to Scoot because I think Scoot's going to be in a similar situation as Wemby, where he's going to get all the touches on offense. He's going to get to lead an offense for a terrible team. So I can see a world where he plays like 70 games and puts up like, 18 points per game, 7 assists, 5 rebounds, a steal or two. I think his stats are gonna be insane, even though the Blazers are gonna suck. And I think that could give him more votes than someone like Chet, who's gonna be on a way better team, but he's gonna be like the second or third option on that really good Thunder team. So I ended up going with Scoot, but it was really close for me.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. And yeah, Chet might be kind of in the situation as his teammate Jalen Williams, where he comes in, he contributes. I think he'd be making an impact a bit earlier than J
For
Dub will.
sure. I expect Chet to be an immediate starter for this team.
Yeah, yeah. They have a hole at the big man position, and so I think he will likely start right away and make an immediate impact with his defense, with his pick and roll game. But yeah, the stats might not stand out. And a guy like Scoot, a guy like Wemby are going to have kind of those Paolo Banchero stats that look a lot more sexy. And yeah, that's kind of what tends to win out when it comes to Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, but we'll see. Because if the Thunder do take a big leap, a lot of people are going to point to Chet being the reason why. Because he's going to make an impact everywhere. He's kind of he's got the similar build to Wemby, where he's going to make a huge defensive impact, but he's also going to be able to stretch the floor in offense. I think they're going to use him in pick and roll. I think he's really going to surprise people. And if he ends up not only being a part of this Thunder team, but being a big reason why they do take a leap, I think some people can make the argument for him getting the award, even if his stats aren't quite as eye popping as Scoots may be.
For sure. And frankly, like as much as Wemby is my favorite, I think a lot of these guys are gonna have incredible rookie seasons, and there's some other guys we're gonna mention in a sec, but it's not, it's definitely not a guarantee for Wemby. And I agree that Scoot and Chet have the best odds of taking that Rookie of the Year award. And when I did look up the actual odds, which by the way, I don't really even understand how odds work. I know it's like how much you make per $100 or some shit, but the negative odds kind of confuses me. But Victor is negative 130. So I don't know what that means. Okay, I'll be honest. But
It's pretty good though.
yeah, no, I know it's good. I know
It
negative.
means he's like a very heavy favorite.
So if you bet 100, how much do you make? If
Like
Shane's
pretty much,
listening, he's
I
screaming the answer.
yeah, I think you pretty much get like $30 or something like that.
Okay. So he's at negative 130. And then Chet is surprisingly number two with plus 350. And then Scoop plus 400. And then there's a big gap. And then you have Brandon Miller at plus 1200. But odds are liking Shet over Scoot, but I think it's close for both. And I kind of like where your head's at, where if Lillard leaves, then Scoot's gonna have all that opportunity. And maybe that's
Yeah,
why he's
yeah, and I will say, like per usual, I'm making the assumption that Lillard is gone, and I don't. I assume the odds kind of have that baked into it, but I could see,
right.
I could see that final flip still having an impact, you know, and especially because odds can change, and you know the second Lillard does get traded, I bet a lot of people are going to hammer Scoot for Rookie of the Year, because they might like those odds, and I could see that going up. But regardless, the way it's set up right now is like it's a pretty clear like Victor heavy favorite, Chet and Scoot like pretty close, and then big drop off to some other names like Miller. I'm seeing like Whitmore 5, Jarris Walker 6. Not sure if I'd have them that high, but that's what the Vegas odds are.
Right. I'm like, Whitmore at 5? I know he had a great summer league, but you guys are
Yeah,
tripping.
yeah. No, this look and he's just not gonna have the opportunity on the Rockets, and it's still insane that he's higher than Amen Thompson because like to get into those guys, that was kind of like my next tier, would be like the Thompson twins, just because they're so goddamn good. Like I feel like you have to have them 4 and 5. I actually had a SAR over Amon, and that's because like I think Asar is gonna have more opportunity on the Pistons. But if he's able to do what he was doing in summer league and get like, you know, even if it's just like 12 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, but then they get like the 2 steals per game and the 2 blocks, you know, I think that pole vaults them into the conversation, especially because their highlights are gonna be sick, and I think they're immediately just gonna be really good NBA players.
Very high on the Thompson twins. And I agree that Asar kind of has a better situation drawn out for him in Detroit, and the impact he can have, I think can feel more immediate. Like unfortunately, Amen still not like 100% sure if it's pronounced Amen. We're sorry,
Yeah,
but
that's still a mystery, but we'll figure it out when they actually start playing games.
right, you know, with Van Fleet, with KPJ, with Jalen Green, it's going to be tough for him to find, I think, any role on the offensive end. But um, Asar at least I think can move into that starting five quickly, or if not, be one of the first guys off the bench. So confused by the odds that Vegas has, but maybe those are still subject to change in the future. So Jarris Walker, sixth on the list.
Maybe. I don't know. Jarris Walker's an
Yeah, I don't
interesting
know.
one. And I think my issue is that I'm like too high on Toppin. So I'm like, I think Toppin is gonna start at power forward and Jarris will come off the bench. But we'll see if he does end up starting next to Miles Turner and Halliburton, then maybe he can work his way into that conversation. But I don't totally see it. Like there's kind of like a fine line that I look at to where, you know, it's like I think Jarris Walker can easily be on one of the all rookie teams, but I don't know who's actually gonna get votes for rookie of the year.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. And you know, there is space on that Pacers front court. Like obviously, you know, we're big Obi Toppin fans here, but he's versatile. He can kind of play that in between 3 and 4 spot, and so maybe there's a world where I think they can both get a lot of minutes. But yeah, I think Rookie of the Year is a bit of a stretch. But again, I've only seen what he's done in summer league. He looked great. Um, and yeah, Rookie of the Year seems far fetched, but hey, yeah, they don't have a lot of great forwards on that roster, and maybe he'll prove to be the starting man. So
Yeah, we'll see. That's kind of like the short list of people who I had in contention for rookie of the year. We talked a lot about our rookies, and we definitely have our favorites picked out. But you know, I think it's kind of like a different discussion to say like if someone's actually good enough to get into that rookie of the year conversation. And those are just like really the guys who I have listed as. It's like Wemby, Scoot, Chet, and I think the Thompsons. You know, we haven't really talked about Brandon Miller yet. I just don't think he has like the same path that some of the other guys do to
there's someone
taking
else.
on that bigger role. Oh
There's
yeah,
someone. Yeah,
who do you want to shout out?
someone that I think could actually come in and take the award.
Is it the Jazz guy?
No,
Okay.
he's been mentioned before. He's 27 years old.
Oh my god, shut the fuck up.
Sasha Vezenkov is technically a rookie.
God damn it.
Hey man, he's listed on this thing, and so is the other guy, Micic. Still don't know how to pronounce it until we officially hear it by a commentator. But both of those guys, man, and especially Vezenkov, you've heard it here before. You'll hear it again. I think he could prove to be an excellent piece for the Sacramento Kings. He's the no dribble god. He's a sniper from anywhere on the court. I think it hurts his case
We'll
a bit
see.
that he's 27. I think voters will probably be like, no, fuck you. Like, you've literally been a EuroLeague MVP. You're just, I don't care if you're technically a rookie. Like, you're 27, but had to be mentioned, and he is technically a rookie.
Okay, are you done?
Yeah, I want to look at what year he was drafted
Okay, okay.
just for kicks, but it had to be mentioned.
Yeah, yeah, I like the take. Fun little shout. Okay, hey, who knows? Who knows? Maybe he does end up being an absolute beast.
He will. Look up his. He has this like. Okay, he was drafted in 2017. My God,
Oh my god.
there's like a game where he literally doesn't dribble once and puts up like 30 points. Harry, it's incredible.
Feel like dribbling's important in the NBA, but maybe not.
Yeah, but like
Which
half of them were layups too.
which team this guy get drafted to? You're the expert.
Am I? I think the Kings.
That
Yeah.
that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure like
No, he was picked
which of the foreign
57.
guys.
He was picked by the Nets.
57th.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Okay, okay. We'll see. I almost like I forget which one was the Kings one then, but I feel like the Kings guy might actually have like a chance to contribute to like a very valid team, and like maybe that gives him better odds. But I don't know. These guys are
What do
getting a
you
lot of
think?
airtime on our pod right now.
Vazenkov is the Kings guy.
Okay, Vezenkov is the Kings guy. Okay, then yeah,
He
maybe. I
just
don't
he
know.
was drafted by the Nets.
I
And
don't fucking
Micic,
know.
the OKC guy, drafted in
I
2014.
okay. Oh my god,
Watch him be
that's
rookie of the year.
insane. You got drafted like that's like 9 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
So
my god. Okay, I don't know. I can't have a take on these guys. I just don't know enough.
and okay, one last more serious. The guy's super young. I think it's unlikely, but my boy Bilal Koulibaly, I think has a very favorable situation with the Wizards, and if he happens to pan out and be more ready than we think, he's going to have all the opportunity in the world. Maybe more so than any other player because of how bad that Wizards team is. So, do I think he's going to win? Absolutely not. But maybe he'll at least be in that conversation because he did have a couple nice summer league games where he put up 20, and I forget the other, but
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good take. I think like any lottery picks who go to absolutely abhorrent teams like the Wizards, I think
yeah,
those are always good picks because they'll always have the path to playing time and touches as long as they're actually like good enough to get minutes, which they should be able to get. So I think that's a good take.
yeah, I figured I'd mention him before closing the chapter on our rookie talk. Unless you have anyone else you want to shout out.
Nope, nope, I'm all set.
All right, let's move along then, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, sixth man of the year. Interesting award. It was kind of a two-man race last year between Brogdon and Quickly. Ultimately going to Brogdon. What is your pick for next season?
Um, Honestly, I'm gonna be lame and I'm gonna say quickly. It's just gonna be his year to win it, and like I don't see. Um, I don't think he's gonna start because of the backcourt situation in New York. Maybe he starts at the two, but I think that's kind of a unlikely scenario. I kind of see him coming off the bench still. And so I don't know. It's really hard to predict sixth man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is because it sometimes even hard to predict who it's going to be who's coming off the bench and whether or not they're going to be the focal point off the bench. So like immediately, like there's only like a couple of teams that do have a true sixth man that really narrows it down. So it's tough to really figure out who's going to get that role going into the next season. Because yeah, it feels like Quickly's in a good spot. Brogdon feels like a little bit of a mystery now with his injury struggles, and then the Celtics also traded Smart. Sounds like Brogdon's still coming off the bench, and Derek White is going to start at point guard, but who knows? Like things could definitely shuffle around for the Celtics, and Brogdon could find himself in a starting job at some point. So it's hard to predict. I actually kind of went for a fun take with this one. I think it's a little bit of a hot take. I'm gonna have to see if they actually end up coming off the bench. But my pick was Kevin Porter Jr., who I think has a
Hmm.
really good chance of getting the award if he does come off the bench. I think it kind of has to. I don't see, how he starts next season now that they have Van Fleet running the point guard. So it's like I think it's Van Fleet starts at point guard, Jalen Green starts at shooting guard, and then Kevin Porter Jr. gets to chuck up all the shots he wants coming off the bench. And I think that's a really good role for him. So if he's willing to embrace that, I think he'd easily get this award, assuming he actually does end up coming off the bench for the Rockets.
Yeah, that's a pick that went over my head, and so I'm glad you brought him up because, yeah, no, if he embraces that, man, he's an incredible player. He's got one of the best crossover handle packages in the league. Excellent shooter. He just, people say attitude problems. Sometimes he can be a little bit trigger happy, but he's an incredible player. He really is. So, yeah, if he embraces that role, I love that pick.
Yeah, and I think his game is well suited to come off the bench because the biggest issue with him is he was a little bit of a shot chucker last season, which is not what you want out of your starting point guard on a young team. But all of a sudden, if he's coming off the bench for a team like the Rockets, I think they'll essentially just give him the green light to take as many shots as he wants. And if they kind of like stagger his minutes right to where he's still playing with, someone else can do some ball handling duties, whether that's like Shangun or him playing with Van Fleet, and he can do more catch and shoot, then I think that also helps efficiency a ton because apparently he's like one of the best catch and shoot 3-point shooters in the league. We just don't see it a whole lot because he loves taking them off the dribble. But if they can unlock a little bit more of that to get him to become a little more efficient, and then he averages something like 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, or something off the bench, I think he's right in this discussion. That would pretty much give him similar stats to Quickly or Brogdon last season.
For sure. No, I love that pick, and it totally again went over my head, and he might top my list now that I remember that. Yeah, there's no way he starts, and he's an extremely gifted player, and he's yeah, I think that's an amazing pick.
Let's go. Y'all heard it here first on the McBasketball podcast. Any other podcasters who want to shout out Kevin Porter Jr. for sixth man of the year, they better give us credit because this is our take.
Yeah. No, and like I was listening to Low, and sometimes I'm like, those guys are biting our takes, low key. I think they
They're
found a
definitely listening. Yeah, no, they're exactly. They found a low key podcast and they're just sniping the takes.
yeah, and they're suppressing our podcast as well somehow. They're telling the ESPN overlords to like keep suppressing us. Don't let people hear about it. But
Absolutely.
anyway, on my short list, I had Chris Paul also. Why not?
Is he? I feel like he's still going to start, but
Is he?
I've, I don't really know. I don't really care.
Yeah,
That's that. I still just like don't understand that situation in Golden State. I've kind of assumed he's going to start. I'd be surprised if he didn't start, even though it's also kind of a gross starting lineup with him and stuff. So I don't really know what to make of that team yet.
in my mind, he's kind of like the second unit commander.
I don't know. Every time I see and granted I think there's just like Golden State Twitter, which is an absolutely like disgusting pipeline to go down. But I don't know, every time I see like the visuals of like projected starting line, it's always like Chris Paul and stuff. Does that mean anything? Not really, but that's just what Twitter has trained me to believe.
Yeah, I think those are a lot of 15-year-old making edits on Photoshop. So
Yeah, it's a little bit of fan fiction, but
I'd be
it's
surprised, but maybe I'm missing something.
yeah, we'll see.
Because yeah, with Steph, with Draymond. Anyway, I don't know. If some for some reason talking about Chris Paul, I just hate.
Yeah, okay, we're over it then.
But I have a fun little dark horse pick, and that would be Benedict Mathurin, who averaged 17 points in like 29 minutes last year. He
Yeah, there's also
improved.
it's also a good take. This also why it's so hard to like predict six man of the
Yeah,
year because I kind of just think he's going to start, but maybe not.
yeah, I'd have to look closely. But they have Buddy now, Bruce. Well, they've had Buddy, but they have Bruce now.
I'd,
Um,
I- I'd be surprised they had Matherin come off the bench. I think they should have Bruce come off the bench because they can definitely put because like I feel like Matherin's like a pretty true small forward, whereas like Bruce is a little undersized there. Buddy would probably be a defensive disaster there. So I feel like the starting lineup should be like Halliburton, Buddy. Matherin, Toppin or Jarris Walker, Turner, Bruce off the bench. But I guess you make the argument that you slap Bruce in at small forward, now to be a little undersized. And he's a great defender, so you could do that.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, last year for whatever reason, Benedict would like never start. Just
That was such
always.
a weird thing. What sucks is that is their coach still Carlisle?
I think so. Yeah,
Is he like the most overrated coach ever? Because like
perhaps.
I feel like all the players on Dallas hated him. Maybe it was just Luka that hated him. I'm not really sure. But then he like comes to the Pacers and he wouldn't play Matherin, who is the top pick they just selected, who's clearly incredibly talented, and his minutes were so inconsistent.
Yeah. Hey, but that's yeah, maybe a topic for another podcast. But I guess I mean he obviously had the title with Dirk, which kind of
That was pretty sweet. I'm not gonna. The Dirk teams were amazing. Maybe I shouldn't even say like overrated, but I don't know. Maybe his strategies just haven't aged that well, at least for me.
no, but I think he has a reputation of being a bit of a hothead, someone that kind of lashes out and shit. So who knows? But yeah, no. Sometimes with coaches, you're just like give something a chance. Like if you're not a winning team right now, just like let your young players throw them in the fire, see how they react. But some guys are like really anal about like not letting guys start and blah blah blah. But
Yeah, fair. Anyone else you want to shout out? I didn't really have a ton of other people. Because like I said, 6 minutes is a weird thing. It really feels like it's usually only like a very small handful of people that are actually, going for the award. So I didn't have a ton of other shout outs, but
nor
if
do
you've got
I.
anyone else, go for it.
Nah, that was it for me.
Cool. All right. So most improved player.
This one I like.
This is an interesting one. And I feel like there's always like interesting unspoken criteria where like if you're like a second year player, it's a little bit harder to get the awards. So for the most part, I kind of shied away from those guys. But I think the third year players very frequently get it. I think there's a lot of people that could. Um, but to start off, like my super boring choice is Mikal Bridges. I think he is like the Vegas favorite, and I think a lot of people are going to hop on that bandwagon. I almost don't want to give it to him because I feel like he almost could have had it last season.
Yeah.
After being traded to the Nets, he was averaging like 26, 4, and 3. So we've already like seen him do it. Like it's not going to surprise anybody if he goes into next season and averages 25 points per game. Like he's essentially already done it for the Nets. So I think regardless, even if he does that again, he's not going to be my pick. But I think the league is going to give him a lot of votes next year.
Yeah, after seeing what he did post trade last year, I think he's gonna, in my mind, have to really surpass expectations. But yeah, for sure, when you compare last year's stats with what he's most likely going to average this year, it'll be like a clear case for hey, this guy year over year has improved so much.
Yeah, totally. And then for the guys who I was really looking at, pretty much I looked at the third year players who I love and I think kind of have room for a big jump to go from promising young prospect to first time all star. And the guys I was looking at were Josh Giddey, Mobley, Shangoon, and Barnes. And Alston is one of my boys, Shangoon. I just think he's amazing. I think he's due for a really big season. I think he's finally gonna get the minutes he deserves. Hopefully get up to like 30 plus a game. And if he gets that, I think the stats will definitely be there to put him in the discussion to be an all star. And I think he's flown under the radar a little bit too. Like there are definitely some podcasters who appreciate Shangoon, but I think he's gonna come out of nowhere for a lot of casual fans. So I think that explosion from being like unknown semi-starter for the Rockets last year, who were terrible, to all of a sudden being like full-time starter, potential all-star next season, would be enough to get him this award.
Yeah, I love Sangoon so much.
Yeah,
He was my
yeah, of course. Big
first
Shangoon
pick.
podcast here.
Yeah, obviously my first pick last week. Um, and yeah, no, if Udoka just favors him a bit more than Silas did, who really I don't think gave him much of a chance. And those minutes go up, I think it's his to lose. Sangoon is also at the top of my list. Um, his usage was like 20% last year. Jalen's was nearly 30, KPJ 24. So if those numbers shift a bit, and like we said, KPJ obviously going to likely come off the bench. They've added some new players to the mix, but um, hopefully more things will run through Sengun. The minutes better go up. If they don't, then like I don't know what to do with my life at this point. And you
That's fine.
know,
Like the Celtics will just trade for him if he's having a down year. It's fine.
yeah, he'll average those like 11 plus rebounds and 20 points. I think no problem if he just sees the minutes, even with um, the amount of talent on that roster. So he's up there for me too. And I agree to your point that it's funny how a lot of third year players that were mentioned in our 2021 redraft. Actually, Cade has the second highest odds in a lot of Vegas odds or in the
That
Vegas odds.
that I think is insane. Like how is he eligible? He averaged like 20 points per game as a rookie. Like
Right.
like
First
like
overall.
he's clearly already an all-star caliber player. Like who is going to be surprised if he has a good season?
Yeah. Reeves was fifth as well.
Yeah, that I also thought that was a weird one because I think we've kind of seen what we're getting. You know, you could have got that award for playoffs then maybe, but I think it kind of goes in that Mikhail category where unless he makes like this other massive leap that we're not foreseeing, like he'd have to score like 20 plus points per game next season for me to consider it. So like we don't see that, then I'll see how he gets into this discussion.
Yeah. And I think a big reason he's high on this board and a lot of other people's predictions is because of the leap in playoff um, points and performance. But he just wasn't averaging. He averaged like 36 minutes in the playoffs. I think he was averaging like 28 on the season. And his per 36, like he was about as efficient and averaging the same amount of points regular season and playoffs if you like adjust per 36 for the regular season to the 36 minutes he happened to be playing in the playoffs. So it's not like he all of a sudden started playing way better at the end of last year, although incredible playoff performance, no doubt. But I kind of expect him to just average more minutes and then kind of average like 16 points and maybe like 4.5 assists, something like that, which I don't think
Yeah.
makes enough the case.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he'll probably mirror his playoff stats, which is really good, but I don't think that puts him in the most improved player category.
What about Obi?
Obi I had on my list. I think Obi has a really good chance of being most improved. I was just looking at his stats, and he's never averaged more than 10 points per game.
Yeah,
And I might even just take a quick look at what his minutes have been looking like. Yeah, so for his career, his minutes were, let's see, 11 minutes per game, 17, 16. So like, he's never gone more than 17 minutes per game. So all of a sudden, if he can find himself in a role where he get, I think he gets at least 25 per game on the Pacers. I would love if he got like 30. I think he'd easily double his scoring from like 8 points per game to 16 points per game. And if he does that, I think that's exactly the criteria that would put him into this discussion. You know, fourth year player making a big jump from single digits to, mid teens, making a big impact, starting all of a sudden on a team like the Pacers. I love that storyline. I think he's an amazing player. I think he's going to look really good for the Pacers too. And I think he's got a good chance to get it.
I agree. Yeah, because of how drastic of a change it could be. And last year he was on a bit of a downswing. Like he was averaging less minutes, like down to like 7.5 points
Yeah.
from the year before, where his minutes had been going up and then back down, unfortunately. But we've seen his 3 point percentage improve and his free throw percentage improve, which is kind of indicative of him becoming a better shooter. And we see the highlights. And I agree that you know there's he was my second next to Sengun, and I think close. And again, those are like two of our favorite players here on the podcast. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they both have very nice situations to win that award, no doubt.
Yeah. I totally agree. And then one other guy who I'd given a shout out for this, and I don't think he really has a chance of getting it because he doesn't really fit the criteria. Like I think he's going to his second year. But I think Shaden Sharp could have a big season. He's going from not getting a whole lot of minutes to the Blazers last season, and assuming that they trade Lillard, promote Scoot to starting point guard, Sharp to shooting guard or small forward. I could see him getting a ton of usage and a ton of shots up on that team. And assuming that they just, I don't know, execute Jeremy Grant or something like that, I could see him getting the bulk of the touches and maybe leading the team in scoring.
Yeah, that's a that's a great take, and we saw when he was able to have the ball in his hands a lot more, and when Lillard ended up sitting out the back end of last season, he definitely showed some of that potential in that he was averaging 20 points for a stretch. So
Yeah, I definitely see the raw talent, and it is coming off a rookie season where he played so little and his stats were pretty much nothing. That I think we can make a huge jump and get closer to like, 18, 20 points per game. Then I think you get into the conversation even as a second year player. But since it is a second season, I do think it would be hard for him to be a favorite to get the award, just because we do see a lot of people make that big jump in their second season. And I think a lot of people attribute that more to the increase in opportunity rather than this like big improvement that he made over the off season.
agreed, agreed. Last player, just a quick shout out would be Maxi. If Harden gets traded,
Yeah, totally.
would be the easy second option in Philadelphia. And I love Maxi. I'm not going to go too into it, but I think he's an excellent player who has a tough time playing next to Harden and doesn't get the opportunity that he deserves because he's an incredible finisher, great shooter. I'm okay. We're not going to do this, but if Harden gets traded, I see a great opportunity for Maxi to make a case.
Yeah, I agree. He averaged 20 points per game last season. And if they trade Harden, I assume he would make the leap up to at least like 25, 26 points per game and probably also be an all-star. And he would definitely be in the discussion, especially, if he were to be a first-time all-star. I think that's always it always gives someone a great argument to win the award if they make the big leap and then become a first-time all-star. So I do like Maxi. That is assuming that James Harden gets moved.
Yeah, which is maybe a stretch. So we won't harp on that, I guess.
Cool. All right, well, let's move on to the most prestigious award, the Clutch Player of the Year. Give me your take, Paul. Who do you have? Who do you have for this award?
Okay. I thought long and hard. This wasn't something that we forgot about and thought it would be funny to do at the end of the podcast, and that we would just throw out a bullshit name and bullshit about why they should win the award. I thought really long and hard about this. And that's why I think Kelly Olynyk, for no specific reason, will be carrying the Clutch Player Award at the end of the season. I'm going to predict that he'll have his hair in a man bun as well. And no, again, no specific reason. I just think he's gonna hit buzzer beaters on buzzer beaters. I think he's gonna, yeah, hit at least like 7 to 8 game winners, a half court buzzer beater. Yeah, no, I see big things. I don't think he's gonna have a particularly good season, but just like in the clutch, in the last 2 minutes, 3 minutes, they'll sub him in, and then it's just Kelly Olynyk time. Kelly Olynyk for the win. I think I've said my piece.
That that is an absolutely awesome take, and I definitely think Kelly is going to be in the running. I think he's definitely, easily, top five favorite going into the season. For me, I went with a player who is just joining this team for his first season with them. I think it was clear that they were looking for a closer on this roster. It's a roster of young players. They brought on a veteran who could definitely make that impact and take over the clutch duties in close games. And I decided to go with Dylan Brooks. I just think he's a clutch shot maker, incredibly efficient, knows his role as always. He's never afraid of the moment. He's always willing to take those shots at the end of the game. Yeah, and he's my pick for it.
Yeah, Dylan Brooks in 3 words would be calm, cool, collected, and a fourth word, clutch.
Absolutely. And he's never shying away from the moment. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter the situation at the end of the game. If he gets the ball in his hands, he's throwing it up there. So if enough of those go in, this could be his award.
Yeah, that is ironically true. He will throw up anything, that's for sure. And he does have an immense amount of confidence. And yeah, no, I could see him kind of like alpha, like being like such an alpha and just like being like, I'm taking this game winning shot. Fuck all of you.
Oh my God. Yep. Yep. That's my take.
But yeah, no, we'd love to hear your guys' take. Just don't give us De'Aaron Fox. Don't give us Lillard. Don't give us these fucking generic ass answers like Kelly Olynyk, Dylan Brooks. These are guys that um losing my train of
We do.
thought.
We just need some real alphas, you know. Like
Right.
don't give us any of those beta cucks. Don't give us any all stars. You know, give us some real alphas here.
Yeah, no. Kelly Olynyk is an alpha. We've actually met him
That
at the
is true.
mall, and
Yeah, Kelly, invite to come on the pod. You know, we loved hanging out with you back in Natick. You know, there's that one picture we obviously used to hang out with him all the time. So if everyone wants to come on for a cameo, you're very welcome, Kelly.
nice. You just doxed us, Harry.
Dude, what?
You just said the town.
Oh yeah, we'll bleep that out. We'll have our producers go back and remove that. But it was somewhere relatively close to Boston. So I think we're allowed to give out that much information.
I was getting death threats for putting Kaminga so high, for putting Kate at 3. So,
I
you're
mean,
dropping my,
I
my
I feel like
address.
I feel like that was warranted. So I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Plus, this is more of a you problem. You know, I'm kind of out of there right now, so I'm not as worried about it.
Of course, like I see in my YouTube recommended this like open gym run, and both Kaminga and Cade were playing. And
Who was
Cade,
better?
man, huh?
Who was better between the two in this open gym run?
Kaminga played pretty well, but I was like, I don't know. He didn't play awesome, but Cade was like the man. Like
I think I
so
saw the
under
Cade highlights.
control.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
pulling everything from three.
Yeah. And those open gym highlights, they mean jack shit, but I'm like, damn, I think I might have really underrated Cade, if anything. I'm still okay with
Yeah,
my Kaminga pick. I'm not gonna backtrack, but and then also Trey Murphy at 10. I'm like, damn, I was like seeing some stats, some highlights, and that guy is an incredible transition player. But I'm sticking by it. I'm not trying to backtrack, but you go back and you're like, hmm.
yeah. We'll see. We'll have like we'll do a segment either at the end of the season or maybe at the midpoint where we just like revisit our worst takes of the year, and if any of those end up being suitable for that episode, we'll talk about them more then.
I have a feeling a lot of my sound bites will be present, but
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Okay, I think just final shout out we want to give. We really didn't spend any time talking about coach of the year. But the way this award usually goes is whatever team ends up, getting the most additional wins compared to the previous season usually ends up winning it. Both of us are super hot on the Thunder, so we end up going with Mark Dagnall for this pick. But I don't know. That's just what we went with.
yeah, yeah, we didn't really think it through much. I'm sure there's other great candidates that are going to pop up. Some teams we're forgetting about, but shout out Mike and whatever your last name is and however it's pronounced.
It is Mark Dagnall.
Dagenalt. The
Yep,
T is
there we go.
pronounced.
Yep.
Okay. All right. 1 minute left on the Zoom. Harry, can you close us out?
Yeah. I'll close this out here. Thank you all again for an excellent episode of the Herald Big Basketball Podcast. Thank you all for the amount of views we got on that last episode. So let's hit out of the park again. Let's just double it, or at least go for over 100. Come on.
Yeah,
So
shoot
send
for
this to
100.
everybody. Smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and thank you as always.
Thank you, guys.